Hello, Inês. I think that's how you say your name. Pardon me if I'm butchering it. But instead of just writing you an email, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to record a video for two reasons. One, a selfish reason, is I'm trying to get used to recording more. I don't know if you saw my latest email, but I'm like trying to do YouTube more. But two, you've been following me for a long time, and you've listened to a lot of my podcast episodes, so I figure, well, the least I could do is record you an actual video so you can see me and hear my thoughts on this situation. I'm gonna ramble a little bit. Hopefully that's okay. So I read your email. Actually have it on my computer screen right over here, which is why I'm like kind of looking back and forth. A couple things I want to touch on. One, I think it's awesome that you went and got help. I'm very happy that you are still here. I mean, that is super important. I'm just like, you need to be here. You need to be here. It might seem really hard right now, but I think there are times in everyone's life, sometimes more times with one person than another, where you feel like giving up, like ending it all. And if you do that, you cut the story like halfway. And there's so much more story to tell, and you can be able to affect people and help people and help yourself and have really satisfying relationships. And I know it seems really dark right now. I'm sure lots of people have told you this too. And I'm sure you know this as well too. So yeah, sometimes it's hard saying these things because, like, I know that you know these things. You are a smart, intelligent, beautiful woman, and you are aware of how good life can be and how bad life can be sometimes. Anyway, like I said, I'm gonna ramble. I'm rambling. You said I need you to talk more about relationships. I keep looking for him when it gets difficult. It's a drug and I can't get off of it. I totally know what you mean. One story, I don't know if I shared it on the podcast or not. Probably not, because it's more of a personal story, but I figured I'd share it with you because you shared a bunch with me, is when I first moved to Idaho, the reason I did was because I was getting out of Reno, and at that point I had a girlfriend who she had broken up with me, and so I just had to get out of that town. And so I did, and whenever something was going hard in my life, I was oftentimes thinking about her, and I like really tried not to contact her. I had a lot of like anger towards her and the relationship, and it was just not a good scene. And so I understand at least a little bit about where you're coming from when you're under a lot of stress and you want to turn to that person who might not be the best person to turn to because they might not be able to help you, or maybe they'll make things worse, and you just can't seem to get away from that. I don't know if there is a solution, but what helped me, there's two things that really helped me at the time. Is one, I ended up going to counseling about that relationship. I was in counseling for like 6 months trying to get over that relationship because it was just so toxic and just not good. So yeah, I sought help, and it sounds like you're seeking help too, and it wasn't an easy process, and for a long time it didn't feel like things were getting better. The one thing that was good about it is, and this is the second thing I did, is I just really tried to reduce contact as much as possible. In fact, I had even moved to a new town and a new state altogether because of that fact. Now, it sounds like you've broken up with them and gotten back together, but you're saying that he's definitely a trigger. If I were to offer some unsolicited advice, or maybe it's solicited because you did email me, I would say to really focus on yourself and your own self-care, and focus on the boundaries that you need to put in place. I have not made an episode yet on boundaries, although it's been in my mind for the past 4 or 5 months. because I think boundaries are so important in all relationships, not just family relationships, but also romantic relationships and friendships and work relationships. Boundaries are really important. And like, so you could have a boundary that says, okay, I don't talk to my significant other about these topics because I know that when I do, I get triggered, I get depressed, I get anxious, what have you. And you need to talk about these people, and you need to talk to the people in your life about these boundaries and set them and make sure that they're clear and be like, hey, if you cross this boundary, then we cannot continue this relationship if you keep crossing it again and again. So that would be the advice that I would recommend, because a lot of the times, at least in my own relationships, the reason that a relationship can be toxic is because a person keeps crossing my boundaries in some way. Maybe the boundary is they keep telling me what to do all the time. I really don't like when people do that. But I also have to take responsibility that I need to make sure they know my boundaries, and it's clear to them, so that way when they cross it, and if there can be repercussions, and I can say like, hey, I've already talked to you about this, and you've done it again and again, so at this point some action needs to take place, and maybe that means some distance needs to be created or what have you. And the reason I mention all that is because it sounds like you've tried to break up a bunch of times and you're still with him. So maybe it's okay to be with him for a while, as long as you start kind of putting in some of these boundaries. Or maybe you'll find that it's just best to leave him, but you like you're saying, you said you can't really do that right now. And so hopefully you can start instituting a few little boundaries, small ones at first, and then maybe larger ones over time. And who knows, maybe the relationship can turn from something that's toxic into something that is helpful to you. That isn't always possible, but maybe it's possible. I don't know. I don't know him, and I only know you through the letters you've sent to me. Let's see, is there anything else that I wanted to cover here? Yeah, there is one more thing I wanted to cover here. It was your first or your second sentence. You said, I've tried everything: bullet journals, meditation, yoga, cutting caffeine, but this time I couldn't do it anymore. And there's been times in my life where I felt similar, that like I've been doing all these different self-care things that everyone say are supposed to make you more emotionally centered, more mindful, happier, less out of control, and they are not working. They are not working, quote unquote. And oftentimes, even with all of these different self-care things, you're still going to have a range of emotions. And if you were, you got diagnosed with depression and probably borderline personality disorder, like if you have those things that you're dealing with, your roller coaster is going to be quite a bit steeper than other people's. But those things can help to shallow out your roller coaster, to make it not quite as extreme. But there's no silver bullets out there. Sometimes... No, let me tell you a story. And I might have shared this on the podcast. I don't know. It was probably 2 years ago. I got food poisoning. And it was the very first time I've had like really hardcore food poisoning. And it was the worst times of my life. And I won't get into it, but like as a kid, like I had something similar happen where it like kind of triggered like a phobia of vomiting for me for a long time, and like triggered a bunch of like OCD tendencies and yada yada yada. Long story short, I managed to like overcome a lot of that stuff, although I still don't like getting sick. I don't think anyone really likes it, but it's not nearly as traumatic as it used to be. But anyway, a couple years ago I got sick, and there was nothing I could do that would make that time really much better. Like, I could journal about how crappy I was feeling. I could try all these different techniques. I could do yoga. I could watch the food I'm eating. And still, I'm going to be going through a period of time that is absolute shit, that is just really difficult. And the one solace that I had, the one thing that sort of helped, was something that I've learned through meditation, actually, which is all things change. Things are always changing. And by focusing on the present moment during those times, it helped. Even though that was one of the worst times physically in my life, which is kind of funny to say about food poisoning. A lot of people think it's no big deal, but for me, it just still is not great. Even though I was not feeling good, I remember thinking, well, in this moment, even though I'm nauseous, even though I just am hating life right now, things will not always be like this. Things will change, and they might temporarily change for the worse, and that's okay. But in the long term, things will probably change for the better, because each day I'm learning a little bit about myself, how to manage my own brain, manage my own thoughts, manage my own emotions, and that is slowly making things better over time. And so I don't know if all this rambling has helped or not. I just really wanted to do something a little special for you, just to let you know that you are important, and that I care about you, and that I know you're going through something hard right now. So things can change. Things can't help but changing all the time. And as long as you're kind of doing the right things most of the time, you will tend to head in a better direction. Of course, life can always throw a wrench in the works, but that's just how life is. But once again, it's great, all of the things that you've been doing, reaching out, getting help, doing some of those self-care things. I think that's wonderful. So keep doing the things that are helping you and helping your life. And even if they're not helping immediately, just keep doing them anyway if you think that they might help in the long term. Because a lot of the times with the brain and our emotions and our beliefs, things are not just helped instantly. They take weeks, months, sometimes years. And it's as I get older, it's funny how many things have taken me years in order to get over or to process in some way. And anyway, hopefully you like this video. Hopefully it's not too weird that I sent you a video. I just figured, let's just do something different. I'm going to drink my water because I have a whole big thing of water here. I'm trying to drink at least a little bit every day. I'm going to play that cello in the background. There it is. I was playing guitar earlier. There's my guitar. And this is the place where I filmed the podcast. Here's this thing, if you're curious. And I have been doing this a lot lately, which is journaling. I have this great book. It's a journal, and I love this journal because, one, it's made in Italy, which is pretty cool. But the size of everything is just super nice. So yeah, I've just been writing in this thing quite a bit, and yeah, I like it. So I'm going to do some of that today. You should plan something that you are going to do today, something that is going to treat yourself a little bit, or that is kind to yourself a little bit, something that can make things just a little bit better. All right, talk to you soon.